Week 18 of the NFL season has just wrapped up, with the final playoff spots finally being filled. The NCAA transfer portal is active, with some big names having already committed to new schools, and Black Monday of the NFL is already underway, with many coaches, including one executive, having already been fired. Welcome to Caleb Perez Show, and obviously in today's episode, we are covering football. Week 18 just finished up. We'll get to that later. Black Monday is going on right now, so if you see me look at my foot a bunch, I'm trying to keep updates on who's getting fired. A few of my predictions already come true. A few more I imagine will. And then obviously the transfer portal has been active with some big names already committing to new schools over the weekend. So we're going to start off with the transfer portal. Start off with college football. Semifinals are this weekend on Thursday and Friday. I'll make videos on those later. Probably on those dates. I imagine Thursday was when the video will be out. And then this weekend is the NFL. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday I will make the video for NFL covering the wildcard games on Saturday. So today, we're just getting to the big names who've already committed in the NCAA transfer portal first. Then we're going to get into me breaking down what happened in NFL Week 18 because there was a lot of great games over the weekend. And last but not least, we will go over Black Monday. Obviously, those of you who aren't diehard football fans, Black Monday is the first Monday after the regular season, in which many NFL head coaches will be told that they no longer have a job. And it's not just head coaches, as we saw the Falcons do yesterday. Their GM won as well. We'll get to that later. Starting off with the transfer portal, we have already had some big names commit. Obviously, start with the smaller ones going big. First of all, Lincoln Kienholz, former quarterback at Ohio State, had transferred to Louisville over the weekend. Obviously, with their quarterback Miller Moss having graduated, Louisville is going to need a new quarterback. There's a good chance that quarterback is going to be Kienholz out of Ohio State. Played back up the third string during his time with the Buckeyes. Has some solid moments, could make some good throws. It was really tough, so this might be his first chance to play some time as a starter. Secondly, tight end out of Ohio, Mason Williams committed to Ohio State. Buckeyes lose a guy, they get a guy in Mason Williams. Obviously, they got a big tight end last year in the transfer portal with Max Clare going on out of Purdue. Williams have been great for the Bobcats all season, the number one tight end option for Navarro at Ohio, and now he will be an option for Julian Sand at Ohio State. Next, Ethan Grunkemeyer, former Penn State quarterback, commit to Virginia Tech. Not too shocking in my opinion. Once he hit the portal, I had a feeling you want to go back and play for his former head coach James Franklin. That deal is done. Ethan Grunkemeyer is off to Virginia Tech. Let's go to some of the other ones. Benjamin Bramer has committed to Penn State. I believe he was the Iowa State's tight end from last season. If I'm wrong, correct me. But obviously, this will be a pattern. There's another guy who committed to Penn State from Iowa State, most likely, so they can join Matt Campbell. But I'll talk about the first one later. Nick Marsh commits to Indiana, big wide receiver. Get it for the Hoosiers. Obviously, they have a big receiver. I believe Cooper will probably be going to the draft this season, so they need another receiver to replace him. Nick Marsh will be a very decent option. Drew Mestemaker out of North Texas, who had a phenomenal season for North Texas, has committed to Oklahoma State. Harrison Moore has committed from Georgia Tech to Florida. Caleb Hawkins, former running back out of Texas, has committed to Oklahoma State, so the Oklahoma State Cowboys have been pretty active in this portal cycle so far. This is the one I was talking about when it came to Iowa State to Penn State, but Rocco backed once he entered the transfer portal a few weeks ago. I had a feeling he was going to be joining Matt Campbell at Penn State. Newsflash, he's joining Matt Campbell at Penn State. Again, Rocco backed. Iowa State quarterback for the last 2 seasons will be joining his then former, once again now current head coach, Matt Campbell at the Penn State Nittany Lions. And then the two biggest ones over the weekend, in my opinion. Obviously, Indiana had done good getting quarterbacks out of the portal. They got another one. They got Curtis Rourke out of Ohio. He had a great season. Obviously, we know what's going on this year with Fernando Mendoza. They got him out of the portal, and now they have another quarterback out of the transfer portal. Josh Hoover out of TCU has transferred to Indiana. Hoover had a very solid season at TCU. He's been a great quarterback for the Horned Frogs, but obviously the team around him hasn't been the best. TCU hadn't been the best on the field. They lost a lot of games this year because of it. So Hoover commits to Indiana. I think this is a great pickup for the Hoosiers, who's going to play well in Stignetti's system. But Hoover commits to Indiana. And obviously the big one over the weekend as far as the transfer portal goes. Brendan Sorsby, quarterback out of Cincinnati, really the best part of Cincinnati's offense that they had by far over the last couple seasons. Brendan Sorsby has committed to Texas Tech. This is big for Texas Tech because their biggest struggle in the playoffs by far was their offense. In general, their quarterback Morton, who played a really bad game. but he was graduating, he was out of the picture, and now Texas Tech needed a quarterback. They got their guy in Brendan Sorsby, who many believed was the number one quarterback remaining um, in the transfer portal. Now, obviously, there's still some big players whose names are in the quarter. I believe C.J. Baxter out of Texas is still in the transfer portal. Aiden Giles, Chili's out of Michigan State. Their quarterback is in the transfer portal, as well as DJ Raiola out of Nebraska and Dylan Raiola, excuse me, in Nebraska, and DJ Lagway out of Florida. Their names are still in the portal, as well as one of the better running back names in the portal, Isaac Brown. He is still in the transfer portal. He was great on the ground for Louisville this season. I'm expecting many big teams to go after him as well. Obviously, I feel like Texas Tech, Indiana, Penn State, Florida, and Oklahoma State, they've been by far the most active. I think Oklahoma State got the guys they really wanted, so I won't be surprised if they were quiet for the rest of this. Florida's still looking for their big pieces. Penn State could look for some big guys, but I feel like they're more going to rely on the Iowa State guys that Matt Campbell had to come over. We have already seen that with Bramer and Marco Beck on Penn State. And obviously, Texas Tech and Indiana still left over. They'll probably do some more adding, but for the most part, those are the big guys who've already gone off the board in the NCAA transfer portal so far. There's the big news to come yet again. DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola, Aiden Giles, Isaac Brown, CJ Baxter, still in the transfer portal, still waiting on when they're going to commit to their new schools. So keep an eye out for those guys to go to their new schools sometime soon. Let me just run through my socials real quick just to make sure that some other guys haven't committed. Obviously, with the transfer portal being active, you never know when a guy's going to commit. Oh yeah, Deuce Knight. It's still in the portal. Hang on, look at this. I'll see it real quick. Yeah, this is another interesting one, but Missouri true freshman running back Marquise Davis committed to Louisville. He has 4 years of eligibility left. He was the number 5 running back in the transfer portal. Again, Isaac Brown's number 1. He came out of Louisville. He's going to be very sought after having a phenomenal year for the Louisville Cardinals. But Marquise Davis is a true freshman. He's got 4 years of eligibility left. To my personal understanding, it does look like he will end up being the replacement for Isaac Brown. Another one, Michael Hawkins Jr., quarterback out of Oklahoma, who put his name in the transfer portal. He committed to West Virginia. So that'll be an interesting grab to see how that one works out. Caton Hauser, the quarterback for Eastern Carolina last year, he's committed to Illinois. I believe that Illinois quarterback, Luke Altmaier, he's going to the NFL, so this will be the replacement for Altmaier, basically. And obviously, there have been a few more guys. Texas Tech's been really active, like I said. Iowa State standout wide receiver Chase Sowell committed to Penn State, yet another one of the Iowa State guys who are joining Matt Campbell with Penn State next season. Amarian Miller out of Colorado is committed to Arizona State. Kai Davenport has committed from South Florida to Auburn. Brendan Black, an O-lineman of Iowa State, actually went to Nebraska, so I think he only has another year or two of eligibility left. Utah's running back Racine Gilroy, excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. He is committed to LSU, according to Pete Nakos. Virginia wide receiver Terrell Harris is committed to Oklahoma. Obviously, Virginia had a big year this season. And more. Kai Bates out of Florida State committed to Wisconsin, so he's going to the Big Ten. Just to get one more, Cincinnati transfer defensive back Jaquan Sang's committed to Indiana. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot more guys who commit over the next few seasons. Not over the next few seasons, over the next few days. And Nick Marsh out of Michigan State, by the way. He committed to Indiana. I talked about him earlier. But obviously, we have some big games. Mylan Graham out of Ohio State put his name into the portal yesterday. Alabama wide receiver Rico Scott put his name into the transfer portal. Alabama edge Keon Keeley put his name into the transfer portal. So yeah, we still have a lot of guys whose names are in the portal. Still a lot of guys who are going to be gone to new schools, but those are just the big ones that I have for now. Again, Rayola, DJ Lagway, uh, Rayola Lagway, Aiden Giles, CJ Baxter, and Isaac Brown, who I think are the big five who have entered the name in the portal this far. Those guys are still in the portal. It'll be interesting to see where they go over these next few days. But yeah, that will do it for the part doing with the transfer portal. Obviously, I will keep my phone open, not only so I can talk about these games, but so I can keep an eye out for both transfer portal news and more Black Monday news, which I will get to here in a second. Getting over the games this weekend, obviously we had 2 games on Saturday, the rest were on Sunday. We don't have Monday Night Football this week. The next games from the NFL will be this weekend. I will get to those when we get to closer to the weekend, so I can give you my official predictions for the wild card round. And before that, I'll give you my video for the semifinals of the college football playoffs. Go over the games this weekend first. First and foremost, I believe Panthers versus Buccaneers was the first game. The Bucs beat the Panthers 16-14, which kept the Bucs playoff hopes alive. And then the Seahawks beat the 49ers 13-3 in San Francisco. The Bucs win at the time was to keep them alive in the race for the NFC South, and the Seattle Seahawks being the 49ers was so they can clinch not just the NFC West, but the number 1 seed in the NFC. So the Seahawks, after a 14-3 season, will be the number 1 seed, and they will have home field advantage for the playoffs up until the Super Bowl. And in the case of Sam Darnold, I learned today that he was the first quarterback since Tom Brady and the second quarterback in the history of the NFL to have back-to-back 14-win seasons. So congratulations to Sam Darnold on making quite some good history. Not long after a lot of people have been slandering his name. And then moving on to the Sunday ticket, obviously I'm going to start off with the big game. Not the biggest game, but it was big at the time. The Falcons beat the Saints 19-17. I mentioned that one first because I said going into the weekend, the playoff odds for the NFC South was that the Panthers won. They were in. If they lost, they needed the Falcons to win to make the playoffs, and for the Bucs to make it to the playoffs, they needed to win. But because of Atlanta's hot streak at the end of the season, they needed the Falcons to lose. While the Buccaneers did go on and end up winning, I predicted this perfectly, by the way. Despite the fact the Bucs won, the Falcons beat the Saints 19-17 at home, meaning the Panthers are in the playoffs, and the Bucs' disastrous collapse at the end of the season is complete. They are out. Falcons beat the Saints 19-7. The Jaguars destroyed the Titans 41-7. Obviously, Cam Ward got hurt, and from that moment on, it was just downhill for the Titans. Jags won their division. They came close to getting the number 1 seed, but congratulations to Liam Combs and the Jags for really putting together a phenomenal season after the rough year last year. Houston Texans clinched the 5 seed after a 38-30 win against the Colts. That was a really fun game to watch. Obviously, Texans took out the majority of their starters by the second quarter. Once they saw that the Jags were absolutely going to town on Tennessee, the rest of their guys for the playoffs. But despite the fact they still got the win, obviously they got that pick 6 interception on the very last play of the game to end until the injury. Really, I thought Riley Leonard played a really good game. He's definitely, in my opinion, going to be in the conversation with the Colts starting quarterback next season. But yeah, 8 straight losses for the Colts, and Steichen and Ballard, their coach and their GM, are sticking around as a core on the team. Interesting choice. But moving on, this is big for the Raiders. The Giants destroyed the Cowboys 34-17. Obviously, Cowboys put a lot of their backups. Giants are just playing for whatever. Giants won an unnecessary game, and because of the Giants winning, the Raiders have secured the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. Vikings beat the Packers. Not surprising. Packers are resting a lot of their guys. Commanders beat the Eagles. Again, not too surprising. Eagles rested basically all the big guys. Hurts them to start the game. Oh yeah, back to the 1 o'clock game, the fun game, the 1 o'clock slate. But the Browns beat the Bengals 22-18 in Cincinnati off a walk-off field goal from Andre Schmidt, who looked increasingly solid throughout the season. Obviously, congratulations to Myles Garrett for breaking the single-season sack record. He got that sack on Joe Burrow in the fourth quarter, which guided the Browns to a win over the Bengals. Bills pummeled the Jets 35-8. Allen played the first quarter, and after that, the Bills rested basically most of their starters. Still managed to win, and the New York Jets make history in probably one of the worst ways possible. the first team in NFL history to go a full season without recording an interception, under a coach who's defensive minded. I'm expecting the Aaron Glenn firing notification to come soon. The Lions beat the Bears. Obviously, the Lions did not have the season they wanted to have. It was a disaster at the end of the year for the Lions. They missed the playoffs, but they do get a consolation prize, the last game of the season victory over the Chicago Bears, as the Lions will be looking to figure out what went wrong and get better over the offseason. Bears obviously playing for the playoff spot. They'll have the 2 seed because the Eagles lost as well, but it is what it is. Broncos beat the Chargers to secure the number 1 seed in the AFC. Patriots beat the Dolphins. 3-10. The Broncos one was 19-3, by the way. Chargers not surprised with that one. Chargers rested their starters. Dolphins are just dead. The Rams beat the Cardinals 37-20. Matthew Stafford did play a really good game, 258 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns. And just getting back to the Patriots game, Drake May had 191 yards and 1 touchdown before Josh Dobbs came in. I mentioned that because those are the leading candidates for NFL MVP, and for those guys, it was their chance to put together their closing arguments in the final week of the season. In the last game of the 425 slate, the Raiders beat the Chiefs 14-12. Obviously, it didn't matter that they won. They had the number 1 pick in the draft secured before the game even started, with the Giants beating the Cowboys, but a consolation prize to end the season on what's been a disastrous year for the Raiders. And then obviously, what a game Sunday Night Football was, back and forth in the fourth quarter. It was super fun to watch. Both kickers missing, obviously. Ravens kicker Tyler Loop unfortunately missed the 44-yard field goal for another memorable play for Ravens fans in the absolute wrong way to end the season, as the Ravens once again go home empty-handed. And the Steelers, they won the game. They finished the season 10-7. They will host the Texans in the first round of the playoffs in the wildcard game. That will be the Monday Night Football game this Monday. Leave Tyler Loop alone, please. If you've been paying attention to his Instagram, it's been bad. Like, listen, he's human. People make mistakes. Does it suck for Ravens fans he missed a kick? Sure. But giving him death threats and wishing for him and his wife to get divorced, it's a fucking game. Get over it. I'm a Browns fan. I went 5-12 this year. One missed field goal is not going to kill you. But yeah, I had a prediction that John Harbaugh was probably going to go if the Ravens missed the playoffs. I feel like the losing side of this game, no matter what, there were going to be some changes in both the head coaching realm and maybe even the executive branch. Ravens, they've had just nothing but playoff defeats for the last while now. Dating back to 2019, I mean, they've either missed the playoffs or fell apart in the game that mattered the most. Or in the case of the last 3 years, Zay Flowers fumbling, Mark Andrews dropping the ball, and now Tyler Loop's missed field goal. Nothing's been able to go right for them, despite the fact that Lamar and Zay Flowers played some phenomenal games, some of their best games of the year. Fell apart at the end. But yeah, I'm expecting Harbaugh to be fired, maybe their general manager as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore did choose to wipe the slate clean, because they do have an aging core. This current contending age has seen nothing but playoff failures and disasters in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore, at least this season or next season, decided we're not competing with this core, it's time to rebuild. But that's my prediction. That's just my opinions. Obviously, the only guys who know it's going to happen in Baltimore is Baltimore, but I do expect Harbaugh to be fired. Especially 3 consecutive seasons ending on one of the last plays of the game. But yeah, those are the Week 18 games of the NFL season. Just to go over, before I get into Black Monday, let me go into the games. Obviously, starting off with college football. The final 3 games of the season are here. 2 of them will be on. One will be on Thursday, one will be on Friday, and the next will be, I think January 16th is the national championship game. I could be wrong about that. I'll look here in a second, but obviously, semifinal round of the college football playoffs are here Thursday at 7:30 on ESPN. The Ole Miss Rebels will take on Miami. Obviously, 2 Cinderella stories in the playoffs. Ole Miss for what they've been through with Kiffin, and obviously Miami being a 10 seed, barely making it, beating Texas A&M at College Station and beating the Buckeyes at Cotton Bowl. That's gonna be a fun one to watch. And then obviously Friday night, I feel it could be the game of the year between Oregon and Indiana. These two teams had faced off prior to this game in Eugene, Oregon. Indiana obviously beat the Oregon Ducks by double digits. In a game that really helped Fernando Mendoza put together his case for the Heisman Trophy that he eventually won, but this is going to be a good game as well. Again, 7:30 on ESPN on Friday. Moving, and then right after those games, then Saturday is when the NFL playoffs begin. The first game on Fox at 4:30 will be between the 12-5 Rams and the champions of the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers. Sorry, and then 8 o'clock the night game will be at 8 o'clock on Amazon Prime. It'll be between the Packers and the Bears. Packers and Bears. Rams versus Panthers is in Carolina. Packers Bears is in Chicago. Then moving over to Sunday, the 1 o'clock game, the 7-seeded Bills go to Jacksonville at 1 o'clock on CBS. At 4:30, the San Francisco 49ers go to the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. That game will be at Fox at 4:30. And then the night game, the Chargers head to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots at 8 p.m. on NBC. And then the Monday night game, I believe, is at 8 o'clock or 8:20 kickoff. It's between the Steelers and the Texans. Those are the games for this weekend. I will make videos breaking those down later this week. Obviously, it's just too early for me to do it now. And then, yeah, we will see. Going over our last segment, it is Black Monday. Now, as I explained this a little bit earlier, Black Monday is the first Monday after Week 18 of the NFL season, or the last week of regular season games. It is a day in which many coaches and maybe even general managers across the league will be told that they no longer have jobs if their team had a rough season. To go over this really quickly, just before we get to the guys who have gone, the Indianapolis Colts announced yesterday, even after their 8th consecutive loss, that general manager Chris Ballard and head coach Shane Steichen will stay put. Colts fans are mixed about this. I think it's a good choice. I feel like what happened over the Colts' last 8 games wasn't exactly the fault of the GM or the coach. They dealt with some injuries. They had some bad luck. And once it was just one thing after another, it just kept going. It was hard to recover from, but I don't dislike the decision to keep him around. I feel like that wasn't their fault. Going to the opposite realm, though, Cincinnati announced that their general manager and their head coach, Zach Taylor, will once again be staying put. Now, obviously, I believe it's because they only have 1 year left in their deals. And if they have a rough season next year, then they'll probably be going. But, yeah, after back-to-back years of missing the playoffs for Cincinnati, or a third straight year for missing the playoffs for Cincinnati with all that talent, I thought they would be going, especially knowing that Cincinnati has had a historically bad defense. Bengals fans don't like the fact they're staying. I really don't like it either. I never really thought Zach Taylor was that good of a head coach. More of a guy who was just carried by the talent on the team. But Zach Taylor will be staying in Cincinnati for another season. Now, getting to the coach firings. Let me start off with the first one. On this one actually didn't come on Black Monday. We got the news of this one last night. During the Monday Night Football game, or the Sunday Night Football game, but Falcons did go on to fire their head coach Raheem Morris and their general manager Terry Fondinot. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. Terry Fondinot and their head coach Raheem Morris. I had a feeling their head coach was going to be going. I feel like with the amount of talent they've had on this team, knowing they haven't finished over 500, let alone made the playoffs, I had a feeling that they were going to be gone. Raheem Morris was going to go. A little bit shocked over the general manager fire, but again, for a guy who, for the most part, been drafted pretty well. I like the drafting. They drafted pretty well for the most part. They got Kyle Pitts. They drafted Kyle Pitts. He drafted Bijan Robinson. He signed Jesse Bates. He did make the weird decision to draft Michael Penix right after signing Kirk Cousins to the big deal he signed, but in general, kind of like Morris, he had been on the team for a little while. The team hadn't been successful. It did look like it was time for Atlanta to clean out the coach's office and the executive office a little bit and then hire 2 new guys. And again, this Atlanta team I thought had the talent to win their division by a landslide this season, and they didn't get it done. So, not surprised about that one at all. Moving on, the first coach firing today. There have been three. Three coaches who have been let go of today. The first one at the top of the hour, yet another guy that I had predicted the Browns and Kevin Stefanski did decide to move on. Um, Stefanski had been a part of the team dating back to the 2020 season, so this was uh, his sixth season. Sorry, this was year number 6 of head coach Kevin Stefanski. He was a two-time Coach of the Year winner in Cleveland in 2020 and 2023. Both the times he made the playoffs with the Browns. But while I do think Stefanski is a head coach, and I do believe he will be on the sideline next season, regardless of whether it's head coach or not, his time in Cleveland was just past its expiration date. The last 2 seasons for the Browns had been miserable, and play calling had been a bit of a part of it. So Stefanski's out of Cleveland again. He'll probably be on the sideline next season, regardless if that's a head coach or coordinator. But Stefanski's expiration date was just he was expired in Cleveland. And then the next one will be a one and done head coach. The Las Vegas Raiders parted ways with head coach Pete Carroll after just one season. It was a really bad year for the Raiders. They were the first overall pick. I knew they were gonna be first overall pick, despite the fact they won their opening game. By the way, um, just yeah, nothing went right for the Raiders this year. They were just a bad team with a bad product. While Pete Carroll historically had been a good head coach, I feel like he was just past his age of coaching at the NFL level. His tactics just don't work anymore, in my opinion. So Carroll's out of the Raiders head coaching job, and I won't be surprised if this will end up being the last head coaching gig of Pete Carroll's career. Again, his tactics are just outdated, in my opinion. But yeah, he's a legendary coach. He might end up being a Hall of Famer because he has won a Super Bowl. But Pete Carroll simply did not work out in Vegas, and they have chosen to move on from him. And the most recent head coaching firing comes from the Arizona Cardinals and head coach Jonathan Gannon, who was fired following Arizona's third consecutive losing season. And again, last season wasn't terrible. They looked like they got better, and then this season didn't start off terribly, but then once they had some injuries, once they had some bad luck, it just went off the rails. But yeah, those are the firings from today. Obviously, I will stay posted for future videos because I imagine more coaches will be fired over the next few days. I think Glenn might go out of New York, and I won't be surprised if John Harbaugh didn't end up losing his job or if he and the Ravens just parted ways. But we will see over the next few days. And again, I will get you a playoff video for both college football and the NFL later in the week. But until then, that is this episode. Went over the transfer portal, went over week 18, and we went over Beta Black Monday with more head coaches firings still to come. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.